Let's get into some of the biggest games of this week and our selection for our team of week. That went to William Penn. There was a big-time upset in Oskaloosa. They take down Mid-American Nazarene 34-31. This is one that you talk about this team now. This is not a one-off for them. They're coming off a couple games here where they've taken down some prominent ranked teams, and now we need to maybe change and flip the script and change the conversation about the Statesman squad.
Yeah, especially the week after they came off a big win against Baker. Now, granted, Baker has been a step down from where they're usually at, but that's still a good football program. They were ranked for the beginning of the season and are still a good football team. So the fact that they've strung together a former top 25 win and now a legitimate top 25 win is huge for them. Being 4-0 and positioning themselves atop the conference is exactly where they want to be. This game was super interesting because there was just a lot of big plays happening. There were early turnover troubles. Both quarterbacks were throwing interceptions, both fumbles, both teams fumbled. But the biggest stat that stood out to me throughout this game was that the William Penn Statesmen won 11 of 18 on third down, which is 61%. That's really good compared to Mid-American Nazarene only going 4 for 15, 27%. It's a big difference that being able to convert on those third downs, continue drives, eventually score points are super important.
100%. And this is, I think it's kind of how we're going to balance ourselves out here is you're going to give me the good insight, the professional analysis, and I'm going to hit you with a random factoid that I found interesting. For this game, it's that the William Penn defensive coordinator, Jay Burns, was at the hospital with his wife having a baby just before halftime. Rest of the staff obviously steps up. What a monumental day for obviously the program, but also for the Burns fam. That's a sweet deal. Statesman, they jumped to number 19, at least in the VSN poll this week after being unranked. Great chance now that they're 5-0 heading into this Grandview game. And now what I want to ask you is, how much will you weigh that result against the best team in the country?
Yeah, I think it's going to be super important.
Assuming they take care of business this next week, of course. They still got another game to win.
Yes, of course. Like, you still have to hold serve. But it's crazy, like, to be talking about this team in a top 20 regard.
Agreed.
For the upcoming contest. But when you have guys like Sterling Ramsey, Destin Loring, Amir Everett, all guys who are major contributors, like Ramsey threw for 3 touchdowns, 255 yards. Loring had 178 yards on the ground with a receiving touchdown, and then Everett adding 104 with touchdown of his own. That kind of production is going to serve you very well as the season continues, and being able to get that consistent offensive production, you'll actually have a chance against Grandview. Like, truthfully, it wasn't the team that we expected to
Here we go.
Up, but you're going to have your opportunity. You might as well take your best punch, and they have the talent across the board to get it done, I think.
Now, whether that's a win or a loss, you're talking about a team now going into the back half of the season. Still some other tests on the schedule, right? Graceland, Peru State, at least in my eyes, stand out as 2 later on that you probably would have circled in terms of like really statement and marquee wins. But so far, is this a playoff caliber team? You look at the way this has played out the last couple of years. I want to say, was Pikeville last year, were they 5-5 and made it into the dance?
Yeah, they were 6-5, 5-5, just the way the AAC played out.
Yes, that conference was ridiculous, but obviously they are very much the exception. Assuming, again, a lot of assumptions right now. That's what we're doing apparently on this show, at least in my part. But let's assume that Grandview takes care of business against this William Penn team, and you've got a loss going into this back half of the season. Do they have to be perfect to make it into that bracket?
I think they'll still be able to give up one more, but you certainly have to be one of Graceland or Peru State. Peru State just put up like 64 points in their last game. They're actually looking really, really good. And Graceland also just put up a bunch of points against, I believe, Missouri Baptist. So definitely going to want to be ready to go in those games. But could definitely be some shootouts too, which would be really, really fun.
The fact that we're having the playoff conversation about Statesman at all is, especially at this part of the year, is like, that's awesome.
This early. Yeah, it's great. You're going to have to show that you are competitive against Grandview. I don't think even if you lose that game, you can't lay an egg. You have to show up and fight back and score some points. And
quality loss.
Yep. But I think as long as you can hold serve and even potentially win that game, which is crazy to even be talking about, you're in a good spot. And I think you can take both games against Graceland and Peru State. They definitely have their weaknesses.
Good for the boys down there. A team that's been stacking up some wins. Lindsey Wilson University outlasts Reinhardt, and this Reinhardt team is one that maybe not experiencing the success they thought they'd have in 2025. LWU, though, Matt, survive and advance.
Yeah, definitely not the Lindsey Wilson that we've seen the past few weeks that has come out and dominated top teams.
Yes.
Reinhardt is still a very good football team. Don't let their record fool you, but certainly not up to the caliber of some of the other teams that Lindsey Wilson have played so far. And especially with the way Reinhardt started this game, it was looking like they were going to get it done. They were up 24-14 on Lindsey Wilson at one point. The rushing attack for Reinhardt really got it going. Jack Colbert and Taylor Jackson, combining for 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Lindsey Wilson's offense found life. They really got it rolling. Quarterback Tate Rice, Devontae Son, the running back, and Kaya Sherrard out at receiver, really combining to put up a lot of points late. They combined in total for 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. It was really impressive. And the Lindsey Wilson defense absolutely stepped up. Only the 3 points in the second half, and Lindsey Wilson ended up outscoring Reinhardt 21-3 in the final 30 minutes of play, which was really impressive. I think it's also important to note that while Reinhardt's still a good team, starting 1-3 for them is out of the ordinary. This is the first time since 2014 they've gotten out to a 1-3 start.
I will one-up your stat. First time since November of 2019 that Lindsey Wilson has come back from a double-digit deficit in the second half. And you talked about it. The way that we've seen Lindsey Wilson, the Raiders, dismantle some really high-powered quality opponents in the first couple weeks of the season, kind of felt like that trend was going to continue. And while that maybe was not the case against this Eagles squad, what we saw was them really overcome in a different way. And I think that actually might have been a more important win for them than continuing to roll. You look at being able to overcome some adversity there and into the second half, overcoming that deficit to go out and pick up a gritty win like that. Now you get a bye week. So the fact that you get a win like this and get to learn from a game like that, and you get a W coming off of it is very important. You face off versus Georgetown preseason. I would have thought this matchup had a lot of title implications down there in the Mid-South, but what does it say to have some stakes now with Campbellsville, Cumberland, the way those teams are playing? This game coming up here in a couple weeks is not necessarily the title game maybe I thought it would be at the start of the year.
Yeah, but at this point, with the way the other teams in the MSC are playing, you're going to have to find a way to win, because there is way less room for error.
Sure.
The MSC is getting a lot more top heavy. The surge of Campbellsville in the past couple of years and this year, Cumberland as well, teams that are perennially in the middle or at the bottom of this conference now showing their stuff. Campbellsville is a case to be like a top 15 team, like straight up.
There you go. Yeah.
They're probably going to push the top 10 if they keep at this pace. So you need to take advantage of every single game. And I feel like even though it's not necessarily for, like title implications right away, like a title game, the implications are even bigger, because if you lose, like there's a chance you don't even get a shot.
Correct.
The way that the rest of
100%.
the conference is coming up.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a double-edged sword, right? In that you got this tough-ass schedule throughout the conference, but the great thing, especially for a team like Campbellsville, who, let's be honest, when some of these voters go through, they're looking at brand recognition. Mm-hmm. Name recognition, teams that they know what they're going to get from teams like that. Campbellsville does not have that luxury. And so if you're a team like the Tigers going through conference play like this, the other side of that sword, the positive side, so to speak, is that you have every opportunity in the world to go out there and prove that you belong in this conversation. And so for teams like that, it is a good kind of a blessing and a curse. Where does the Mid-South rank in conference quote-unquote toughness right now in the general landscape of NAIA? Feels to me easily upper half in terms of tougher conferences inside of the landscape, but where do you see it?
Yeah, they're definitely pushing top 3. They're probably in the top 3 in terms of conferences. It is.
Give me the podium. Frontier.
Oh gosh, Mid-South is definitely up there. Mid-South. Me and Corey
on the
crunched
spot.
Numbers this summer. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know just by watching these teams this year, they're for sure a top 3 conference. The way that the middle of the pack has shifted towards the top, I don't think we're seeing anywhere else in the NAIA right
Sure.
now. It's pretty jarring to see, honestly, because there's a lot of good football being played. And it's not just the conversation of Lindsey Wilson and Georgetown and Bethel, a team that we have not mentioned at all yet.
Correct.
They are
Holy
also in
cow.
the mix of all of this.
Yeah.
So now you add in a Cumberland, you add in a Campbellsville team, you add in a Cumberlands when they're good.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
There's
one of the most confusing deals in all of college football, by the way.
Yeah,
Dumb. Just downright dumb.
I don't even know why we're dealing with it, but it's the way it is. So
correct.
But yeah.
Yeah, that Bethel team's an interesting one, though. You get the Chance brothers over there. I thought those two were going to be lightning immediately. You know what I mean? And not to say they've been bad. Obviously, the offense from Bethel is still figuring some things out and doing some positive pieces, but 1 and 2 is not where I saw those guys at this point in the season, especially with some of the competition, but a lot of ball to be played.
For sure. It's definitely hard with Bethel too, just because they didn't get to play against Kaiser. We would have learned a lot about them in that game. They had to cancel due to travel and weather issues down there.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we missed out
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Would you put Mid-States? Mid-States has got to be up there towards conference-wise and in toughness or standing, I feel like. The top half of that conference is performing pretty well.
Yeah, it depends on if you value the divisional side of it or if you group all them together too.
Okay. Okay. Is that cheating? Is that in the aggregate? Is that cheating the equation?
I mean, they each get their own playoff bid, so I think it's fine. But
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. Well, let's talk about that conference a little bit here. Indiana Wesleyan. Look at that little transition over there.
Yeah.
Indiana Wesleyan, they survived the onslaught that was Olivet Nazarene, 28-27. A little bit of a scare for the Cats, Matt.
Yeah. It was weird coming out of this game, and I wasn't thinking too much about Indiana Wesleyan and more so that Olivet Nazarene is a legitimate football team.
Agreed.
They were up 27-14 at half. They really looked in control. Indiana Wesleyan did pitch the second half shutout and scored 14 points, which was super impressive in its own right and proved that the Wildcats are still very easily a top 10 team in the country. But it was just really impressive to see how Olivet Nazarene came ready to play. They eventually did fizzle out. But it was a good old-fashioned quarterback duel. You had Christian Dew Reed versus Arjun Loth. 5 combined total touchdowns, almost 600 yards between them. Also, Dew Reed had a rushing touchdown and 55 yards as well on the ground. And Olivet Nazarene really controlled the ball. Time of possession, 34 minutes to 25 and some change there was really impressive for them. What really got it over the hump for Indiana Wesleyan, though, was a late goal line stop that would eventually put it over the top for them on the 1 yard line, being able to snuff it out and get the ball back. But even so, you still have to consider that Olivet Nazarene is a very legitimate team. They have the talent and the wherewithal to make a national tournament run. And I think it's something that you really want eyes on both of these teams going forward, but especially Olivet Nazarene. They have a competitive Siena Heights game next week that's going to be really interesting to look at. And Indiana Wesleyan is going to square off against Marion, a team that we've talked about, especially with their D2 matchup against UND earlier this year. So it was a good win for Indiana Wesleyan. It might have been even a better loss for Olivet Nazarene. And it's going to be super interesting to see like the ramifications of this.
100%. And something that kind of surprised me looking back at just the box score of this one, man. IDub, they didn't take their first lead until the fourth quarter.
Yep.
That's a ridiculous stat to me. This very uncharacteristic. What's going wrong with the Wildcat offense? And right away is in my head. And the ONU is not a team that I've come to associate with the low-scoring slugfest type of game. This feels like to me that Nazarene is more of a shootout type squad. They've shown the offensive capability, but it's almost like a Big 12 type game when these teams hit the field. And this was not necessarily the opposite. We're still talking about almost 60 combined points being scored, but the fact that they were able to stay and compete in a game like that, and the defense stepped up, especially for the first half of this contest, very impressive. Like you said, one of the bigger takeaways is that this team is legit rather than oh, Indiana Wesleyan is a fraud. And I definitely don't think it's the other side of the pendulum there. Indiana Wesleyan, though, not missing any personnel. They seemingly just couldn't keep the drives alive. I think that was kind of a piece of it. 6 of 12 on third down is not bad. Like a 50% conversion percentage on third down. I'm looking through the box score and the stats here and trying to look at some of the film and trying to determine basically what stopped these guys. It's not like they were giving over the ball and coughing up turnovers at every which way. 1 of 3 on fourth down, so you had a couple turnovers on downs there, but it kind of just felt like a perfect storm for Indiana Wesleyan to not be in this game in the first half. Good teams find a way, and the Wildcats did just that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a positive for both squads.
We just hope everyone has fun.
Yeah, I hope everybody has a good time. It's just hard because, like, you lose, right, on the stat sheet and on the schedule.
Sure.
It's hard to come away from a loss and be like, oh, we did a good job. But, like, truthfully, you went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the country. There's
if we want to play the who beat who and who played who, look at that game against Kaiser, and you play that game going all the way down. You're like, hey, we got a team, we got a group here. We got a group. Let's talk about a group in McPherson. They take down Evangel 17-10 in what is really the first marquee win of the Bulldogs campaign. I think in 2025 they've been dominant so far. They put this under their belt, so to speak, and now still not really getting the top 25 love. The Bulldogs.
Yeah, no, the coaches are turning a blind eye a bit to McPherson and Evangel. I personally have both of these teams within the top 20. Even Evangel after this loss is still in my top 20. This game really showed me the capabilities of both defenses because this was an absolute slugfest. And McPherson, much like Indiana Wesleyan in the last game, had to come from behind to win the game. McPherson rattled off 17 points in 10 minutes to win the game. Jalil Brown, absolutely one of the best players in the country. He's an absolute stud, getting it done on the ground and through the air. It also helps when Evangel has some special teams malfunctions, and on a punt attempt, your punter muffs it and kind of bobbles it, and McPherson picks it up and runs it in for a touchdown. In a 17-10 game, that is a mistake you absolutely cannot afford, and it would end up costing them.
It's like shooting yourself in the foot with a 12 gauge.
Yeah, and especially when points are at such a premium in this game. I mean, 17-10 is not a lot of scoring. No. Like, it's even more crucial. Now, granted, Evangel, you can also take that and spin it the other way and say, well, we're basically one fixed play away from probably winning this game.
Yeah.
Which is certainly something to consider. Again, silver linings. I know coaches and players don't like talking about that. But it still proves that you're one of the better teams in the country. It was really interesting to see how McPherson gutted this one out because their quarterback threw for 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. Granted, they run the ball mostly anyways. But yards per play, even though they were outgained offensively by about 80 yards, they just edged out Evangel with 4.6 yards per play as opposed to their 4.3. And on the Evangel side of things, Reed Potts still looked really good. They still distributed the ball well.
He's a
dog. They were being efficient. He is a dog. And I think it's going to serve them well as they continue throughout the rest of the season. It's, this isn't one that you can sit and really, mope on for too long because you have to move on. You have even tougher competition down the road that you're going to have to play eventually. It's really important that you take away the positives from this. If you're Evangel, keep your season rolling. And for McPherson, this is, like you said, the big win of the year so far. It's really, really important that both of these teams get the national recognition they deserve because they're some of the best.
Yeah, and you look at this McPherson squad, back to the Bulldogs, 4-0 right now. It's not a crazy take to say this team's going to be 6-0 heading into that matchup with Friends here in a couple weeks. You got Ottawa and Bethany on the schedule. It's not a roll out of bed and just put the W on the board, but these are games that I think the Bulldogs take care of, especially with that ground game that you talk about. And feels like now everything's building up, man. October 18th, Bulldogs, Falcons. That's gonna be a big one in determining some of those playoff implications and who comes out of this division.
Yeah, we're at
which
the
is
point
loaded, by the way, this year. The way they reshuffled it,
yes.
I think we talked about it a little bit, but it's damn near stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculously loaded. It does make it really entertaining because it's harder to predict, but my goodness.